Things like addictions, pride, laziness, gluttony, lust, and greed. Unfortunately, vices have been controlling people since the beginning of time. We have all sinned and given in to these vices, which is why many thinkers have thought about them throughout history. Vices make us act in ways that aren't logical, tempting us and making it hard to understand, while making us want the most basic human desires. In fact, they make us believe that vices are either good or not as bad as we might think. Stoicism becomes known as a strong way to fight vices. Stoics say that vices take away people's ability to think and choose freely, making them like animals whose instincts and wants control them. Stoicism is basically the practice of virtue all the time. It's an intellectual habit that keeps us away from vice and helps us live a full and happy life. As you may have learned, vice makes people very unhappy. At first it might seem satisfying, but that satisfaction is short-lived. It leaves behind pain, suffering, and misery when it fades. While vices may seem to make us happy, they actually drain us and leave a wound in our souls that can only be healed by virtue. It was Marcus Aurelius who said that vice is its own punishment, prone to harming themselves. Seneca also said that vice is the worst enemy and virtue is the best defense. I want to help you master yourself, get rid of your vices, and become happier and more moral in this video. The video will be split into 2 parts to make this possible. First, I'll talk about what a Stoic means by vice. And now I'll give you 10 tips on how to fight vice with virtue. Before we start, please think about giving the video a like to help get this idea out there. Sign up for updates and click the bell to make sure you don't miss anything. In the description, I've also put links to my other Stoic posts on different social media sites. Stoicism says that vice is bad behavior that is morally wrong, a soul disease that leads to irrational desires. It makes it hard to judge, hurts people, and destroys inner peace. People usually think of vanity, anger, fear, lust, greed, gluttony, and addictions as examples of vices. Marcus Aurelius writes beautifully about these changes in the soul. He says that ignorance and a lack of self-control are the main and worst vices. When you make a mistake about failing to use the virtue of wisdom, you end up with vice. There are 2 ways that our understanding can go when we are drunk or high. Either it thinks something is good when it's actually bad, or it knows what's bad. It tries to persuade itself that it's good. In both cases, the result is the same: confusion, the expression of error, the rejection of reason, and the freedom to enjoy and want things. By their very nature, impulses are selfish and irrational, lowering us to animal level. Giving in to vice means giving up reason, which is what makes us human, and becoming a slave to our passions. Giving up reason makes us dependent and easy to manipulate, because others can easily take advantage of our weaknesses. Marcus Aurelius said that the vices were found in the era of self-control, which came after the era of ignorance. However, falling into vices does not mean we have made a mistake that we can't fix. Seneca, on the other hand, said that virtue is the best cure for vice. So according to Stoicism, it is important to fight every day, practice virtue, try to become more calm and logical, and give up vices slowly. This task is hard, but it fits with the goal of finding true happiness. It wouldn't be as amazing or valuable if it were easy to be completely happy. If you think like a Stoic, you probably agree with these thoughts. Still, you may be curious about what you can do right now to fight your vices. Inside the second part of this video, I'll give you some tips on how to fight the power of vices and grow in virtue. Number 1, self-reflection, and getting to know yourself. Starting the process of beating vices starts with a deep reflection on oneself, a thoughtful journey through the complex landscape of one's own soul. It's a journey that requires a deep understanding of who you are. This isn't just a casual look inside. It takes conscious effort to find the hidden sides of your personality and understand the small details that make vices appealing. Dive into the depths of your mind and figure out the complicated parts that make up your personality. You have to carefully look at your feelings, actions, and thoughts. What are some of your vices that have sometimes affected the choices you've made? Recognize your weaknesses and face them head-on with honesty. It's not a sign of weakness to recognize these things about yourself. Instead, it's a sign of how strong and brave you are, and it's an important first step toward freedom from vice. As you learn more about yourself, you may have to face uncomfortable truths and see patterns that you hadn't seen before. When you do bad things, what makes you do them? Are there feelings or events outside of the person that cause this to happen? By carefully looking at it, you give yourself the tools you need to build a strong defense against the vices that might try to catch you. Remember that learning more about yourself is an ongoing process. Going through this process of self-reflection again and again is important because understanding yourself is not a static goal, but a journey that is always changing. Accept that the landscape of your inner world is always changing. It is in this growing understanding that you'll find the strength to face and beat your vices. Number 2, taking up the odyssey of virtue. As you set out on the good path to overcoming your vices, it is important to remember that this is a deep journey of self-discovery, resilience, and change. Understanding that the way to freedom from vices is not a sprint or a leisurely stroll, but a marathon, is the first step toward long-lasting change. Know that this trip will take time, patience, and a strong commitment. Developing virtue requires a consistent and deliberate effort, just like making a strong sword requires careful craftsmanship. Some vices are so deeply rooted that they are part of who you are. In the course of time, they've become a part of your habits and responses. To break these deeply ingrained patterns, you have to work at it over time and consciously. As the seasons change, you will inevitably run into problems on your journey. It's important to understand that these setbacks don't mean you failed, but are instead necessary parts of the changing process in the ups and downs of personal growth. Making mistakes now and then is not only normal, but it can also teach you a lot. These times of trouble are when your strength and resilience are tested and built. Perseverance becomes your constant friend, a guiding force that moves you forward even when the path seems hard. Know that the journey isn't just about the wins, it's also about the lessons you learn when you're weak. Accept setbacks as important opportunities to learn more about yourself. See them not as impossible problems to solve, but as steps toward greater self-mastery. Think of this trip as an investment in your own health and a chance to discover the huge range of possibilities that exist within you. As a skilled navigator plots a course through uncharted waters, you must also use courage and determination to find your way through the complicated landscape of your mind. It dawns on them that the odyssey of virtue is not just a destination, but a journey that changes them all the time. A sign of how strong you are in the long run. Number 3. In the confusing path of overcoming vices and making a deep connection with your motivations, finding the beacon of purpose becomes like a North Star, guiding your ship through rough seas. Dig deep into your soul to find the real reasons that drive you to pursue virtue. Once you know what drives you, these reasons become a lighthouse of purpose that shines on the dark side of vice's temporary pleasures. Start this journey of self-reflection by thinking about the main question: why do you want to get rid of these bad habits? What drives you to be good is what keeps you committed to being good. And understanding them is like making the foundations of a strong castle stronger against the attacks of evil. Your reasons may be as different from one another as the stars in the sky at night. Whether it's a desire for long-lasting happiness, a dedication to personal growth, or the goal of making deep connections with other people, each of your unique motivations is a source of strength. When you are facing challenges and temptations and are tempted by short-term pleasures, these motivations stand firm and remind you of the bigger purpose that goes beyond the temporary pleasures of vices. It is very important to deeply internalize these reasons for doing what you're doing. This will help you feel stronger when things get tough. You might want to write a personal manifesto, which is a list of your goals and the deep reasons you want to be good. This written testament serves as a physical reminder during times of weakness, tethering you to deep convictions that are stronger than the allure of instant gratification. Accept your drives as the guardians of your virtue, realizing that the search for long-lasting happiness is worth a lot more than the short-term pleasures that vices offer in your journey. These reasons give you a sense of purpose and strength, leading you to the shores of lasting happiness instead of the dangerous waters of short-term pleasure. Number 4, you need to set goals that are attainable as you weave your way to virtue. Setting clear goals is an important part of pursuing something because it gives you purpose and direction. Setting goals that are attainable is like making a plan for how to get through uncharted waters. It takes careful and deliberate navigation to reach the shores of virtue. Let's start setting goals and learning about the fine line between being difficult and being successful. Start by thinking about the bigger picture of your good intentions. What does getting to the point of virtue look like for you? What specific parts of your personality and behavior do you want to change? As you try to answer these, set specific, attainable goals that will both challenge your current habits and stay within your comfort zone. Recognizing how hard the task at hand is an important part of setting goals that are attainable. It's not easy to get rid of bad habits. It takes a coordinated effort, a dedication to progress, and an awareness that change happens gradually. Think of your goals as stepping stones. Each one brings you closer to the highest level of virtue. These goals should be like lighthouses that help you find your way through the rough waters of personal change. You should push yourself, but don't forget to keep a healthy dose of reality in mind. Expected actions that aren't realistic can make you angry and weaken the foundations of your good journey. Keep in mind that the journey is a marathon, not a sprint, and your goals should reflect this. To make good progress toward these goals, break the big goal of being good into smaller, more manageable steps. Celebrate every success, no matter how small, because it means you're making progress. This step-by-step approach not only gives people a sense of accomplishment, but it also makes sure that the pursuit of virtue stays a worthwhile activity. When you make these goals, think about how your own journey will be different from others. Your goals should be in line with what drives you and with the bigger story of your moral journey. When you reach a goal, it strengthens your commitment to virtue and gets you ready for the next challenge. Let these goals be like notes in a grand symphony of your pursuit. They should fit in perfectly with the melody of your aspirations and lead you through the beats of personal growth. Take advantage of the way realistic goals can help you find virtue while also recognizing that your journey to change will happen over and over again. Number 5. Start out slowly. Starting to change slowly is the smart thing to do in the complicated dance of transformation, especially when caught in the web of vices. A careful and nuanced progression that makes me think of building a mountain out of sand grains. Marcus Aurelius, a wise man, supported this way of thinking, which becomes your guiding philosophy as you start your path to living a good life. Think about how deeply rooted vices are in you. They are made up of habits, urges, and emotional responses that are so strong that they are part of who you are. To untangle these complicated threads, you need to be patient and plan ahead. Think of the process as sculpting a masterpiece. Each careful stroke adds to the final product, which is a good work of art. To start, pick out a specific vice that you want to work on, instead of trying to cut all ties with it at once. Choose a reduction or modification that is done in stages. For example, if you want to stop putting things off, start by setting aside specific times to work on one thing at a time. Then gradually add more time to this disciplined routine. Marcus Aurelius's comparison of building a mountain out of sand grains is a great way to explain how things change over time. Break the big goal of getting through the ice into smaller steps that you can handle. Even though these small changes may not seem like much on their own, they add up to make a huge change in behavior. This slow approach is useful for more than one reason. The first thing it does is recognize that big changes take time and effort. Second, it makes it possible for an easier adjustment, trying to keep your system from being too shocked by sudden changes. Third, it gives you a sense of mastery because each small victory boosts your confidence and makes you more determined. As you move forward, look back at your journey every so often. Think about the progress you've made and the lessons you've learned. This practice of reflection makes sure that your approach stays flexible and changes as your understanding of yourself does. The beauty of this slow rise is not just the fate that was chosen, but also the way it changed things. Like a sculptor improving a work of art or a composer writing a symphony. Enjoy the intricate craftsmanship of your good deeds. Accept the small changes that happen over time as important strokes on the canvas of your character. Each one adds to the beautiful picture of a life lived in pursuit of virtue. Number 6. Avoid stressful situations. When it comes to living a good life, the architecture of your surroundings is very important to keep yourself from giving in to the calls of vices. Wise advice comes up. You can avoid situations that could lead to a relapse by changing your habits and the places where you spend time. When you do this strategic recalibration with courage and determination, it becomes a key part of your fight against the siren call of temptations. Recognize that the places you live and the habits you have there are not just background, they are actively shaping how you act. Start the process of changing by thinking about the places or situations that have historically fed your vices. Pinpoint these triggers with complete honesty, whether it's being alone late at night that leads to bad habits, or certain groups of people that make temptation stronger. Once you know what it is, find the courage to make changes on purpose. You might want to change your daily routine to avoid or lessen these high-risk situations. If you tend to put things off until the wee hours of the morning, make it a habit to follow a strict evening routine that puts rest and recovery first. In the same way, if your social settings make bad habits more appealing, you might want to rethink your activities and spend more time in places that encourage good habits. Being self-aware and having the guts to change yourself is needed for this process. Don't be afraid to face the habits that get in the way of your progress toward virtue. Being brave isn't just about standing up for what you believe in. It's also about changing your environment so that it fits with your goals. Build places that are strong defenses against temptation. Create places on purpose that encourage good habits and keep bad ones from taking over. If you want to be more focused at work or more calm in your home, think of your surroundings as blank canvases that are just waiting to be painted with the virtues of living a good life. Remember that this journey of change requires you to be flexible. Be willing to change your environment as you learn more about how you are changing. Take on the challenge as a chance to be creative. Each change you make will be like a brushstroke that adds to the masterpiece of your good life. Number 7. Making the choice to stay away from people who promote vice becomes a key compass point in the complicated path of living a good life. Real care for someone goes beyond just being there for them. It means that you really want their well-being. Realizing that people who promote vices might be blocking your path to real happiness is a brave step toward building a life based on virtue. Start by taking an honest look at your social circle. You should figure out who the people are that tend to push you toward bad behavior, whether they mean to or not. Figure out how their presence affects your path to living a good life. Knowing that your own health and the health of those you share your journey with are connected is an important part of truly caring for yourself and others. Start the process of detachment with courage. Please understand that this decision is not an accusation, but rather a choice to protect oneself and grow as a person in the pursuit of virtue. You should surround yourself with people whose influence matches your goals, making a space that encourages good habits and shared values. Getting away from people who help others is a sign of high self-respect. It means realizing that if you want to be truly happy, you have to be careful about what energies and influences you let into your life. As a garden does better when it is free of weeds that take over, your journey to virtue does better when you are free from relationships that help you do bad things. Accept the freeing power of choice. You are committed to living a good life because you have chosen to stay away from people who help others do bad things. That's not an act of judgment, it's a choice to make sure your path fits with your values. While this recalibration is hard, it makes it possible for your personal journey to grow and in turn improves the well-being of everyone involved. Don't forget that the process of detachment changes over time. You learn more about the relationships that shape your environment as you grow. Pay attention to the ups and downs of relationships and make sure you're always around people who make you grow, spread happiness, and share your desire to be truly happy through good living. Number 8. Ask for help in the tapestry of personal change. When you realize that asking for help is both a sign of strength and a smart move, you become very wise. Don't be afraid to ask for help from other people based on their knowledge and experiences. Spend money on useful things that will help you on your journey. Some people have dealt with similar vices and come out on top, and they are ready to help and guide you. Realize that the path to virtue doesn't have to be a one-person show. Vices can cause a lot of problems, and the combined knowledge of others can help you find your way through the complicated parts of your own journey. Find people in your network, like friends, family, mentors, or co-workers, whose views are similar to yours when it comes to living a good life. Being open and vulnerable is important during this process. Talk about your goals, your problems, and the specific bad habits you want to get rid of. By doing this, you make room for the wisdom of many people to shine on your path. People who have been through similar things can give you advice based on their own experience, giving you the tools and strategies you need to make it through your own journey. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It shows that you want to grow. It means realizing that different points of view and the strength of a community of support make the path to virtue more interesting. Take advantage of the chance to learn from the successes and failures of people who have been through similar problems. You might want to talk to someone, join a support group, or get professional help. Therapists, counselors, and life coaches are trained to give you individualized help and are equipped with the tools to help you overcome your vices. Their unbiased opinions can help you understand things better and give you hope. Don't forget that you're not going through this journey by yourself. The combined knowledge of others becomes a source of strength, creating a sense of community and a common goal as you work through the challenges of beating vices. Take comfort in the stories of people who have been through similar things and let their advice help you live a good life. Number 9. Know the difference between pleasure and satisfaction. A key realization comes to you as you navigate the maze of good living. You need to be able to tell the difference between short-term pleasure and long-term satisfaction as you consciously stay away from vices. Explore the huge difference between these two states of being, and remember that the search for virtue is closely connected to the growth of lasting happiness. Know that pleasure, which is often short-lived and fleeting, is the immediate satisfaction you get from giving in to your vices. It's the fleeting feeling of happiness that comes in the form of a solution to short-term pain or desire. Satisfaction based on virtue, on the other hand, lasts longer than pleasure. When you act in line with your values and principles, you feel a deeper, more profound sense of happiness. Think of a flame that goes out and a steady glow as an example. Pleasure is like a candle flame. It gives you a short burst of warmth, but can be put out by the slightest breeze. Happiness, on the other hand, is like the steady, unwavering light of a well-kept fire. It keeps you warm and illuminated while you stay away from vices. Think about times in the past when a short-term pleasure may have hidden a deeper desire for long-term happiness. Realize that pursuing virtue requires a paradigm shift, a choice to put the long-term satisfaction that comes from living a good life ahead of the temporary appeal of vices. Practice being mindful in the choices you make every day. By thinking about whether an action is motivated by the desire for short-term pleasure or long-term satisfaction, this practice of self-reflection can help you make decisions that are good for your long-term health and happiness. Take it into account that the path to long-term happiness is not free of problems. It takes persistence, patience, and a strong dedication to moral principles. On the other hand, the benefits are huge. A life that is full of meaning, purpose, and a deep sense of satisfaction. Number 10. Think about the harm that can happen in the quiet place of good living. There is a deep moment of reckoning, a moment that makes you think about the harm you do when you give in to your vices. Explore the idea that vices are like rough currents in a big ocean. They create a spiral in the undertow that traps you and sends ripples that affect other people's lives. When someone chooses virtue, they start a good journey for the greater good, realizing that morally sound decisions can change things for the better. To start this journey of reflection, you should recognize that vices hurt people in many different ways. Think about how it affects your health, how it stops you from growing as a person, how it stops you from being truly happy, and how it slowly destroys your character. At the same time, think about how your actions might affect your friends, family, and the community as a whole. Think of vices as threads in a tapestry that tell a story of pain and strife. Just be aware that once the spiral of vices starts moving, it can pull everyone down into its harsh currents. This awareness is like a clarion call. It tells us to rise above the current and try to live a good life. Accept the idea that choosing virtue isn't just something you do by yourself, but something everyone does together for the greater good. Every choice to stay away from bad things is like a ripple, a good force that fights against the currents of discord. When you look for the greater good, you become a positive force that moves the story toward harmony and well-being. Take some time to think about how you and the world around you can change. Think about the other option, a life full of the effects of bad habits, keeping a cycle of harm and anger going. As a strong cure, choose virtue, a force that can break the chains of negative patterns and bring in a wave of positive influence. The discussion on controlling vices stands out as a deep and life-changing thread in the rich tapestry of Stoic philosophy. Philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius all wrote about the Stoic view, which has timeless wisdom that goes beyond its historical roots. Stoics believed that self-discipline and living a good life could change people for the better. Seneca's emphasis on conquering vices shows this idea. It fits with the Stoic idea that the only way to find true happiness is to overcome one's own problems. Epictetus gave a very clear picture of how destructive habits can hold you back by saying that vices are like chains that hold back freedom and inner peace. Stoicism is a way of thinking that basically wants to free the soul from these chains that it puts on itself. This freedom leads to peace and control over oneself. Marcus Aurelius looked at vices as weaknesses that must be overcome in order to become great and wise. This is similar to the Stoic idea that virtue is not just an idea, but a force that drives people to reach their fullest potential. The battle against vices turns into a furnace for personal growth and the growth of wisdom, as a language model for artificial intelligence. As for me, I don't have any vices or struggle with them, but I like the Stoic ideas, which stress self-awareness, toughness, and the search for virtue. The Stoic way of controlling vices gives people a philosophical and practical way to deal with the complicated things going on in their own lives. People who want to follow the Stoic teachings on controlling their vices will need to be patient, think about themselves, and make a promise to keep getting better. The idea that vices get in the way of peace and real happiness is in line with the Stoic view that real happiness comes from living in harmony with reason and virtue. I want people to share their thoughts on the Stoic doctrine about controlling vices, whether they have had trouble getting rid of vices or have been successful in their pursuit of virtue. Sharing our individual journeys can help us gain a deeper understanding of how Stoic ideas apply to today's search for a meaningful and good life.